Today is Monday, February 23rd, 2026, and I need to stop you right here. Before you swipe past this video, gold is sitting at $5,151 this morning. Silver is at $86.87, climbing nearly 3% since 5:41 a.m. Eastern Time. Both metals are making moves. And it's not because of regular news. They're surging because 72 hours ago, America's constitutional framework around trade policy completely fractured. And while that was unfolding, a military countdown timer started running over the Persian Gulf. Two different stories, two different risk categories, but they're both feeding into the same outcome for whatever metals you're holding or considering buying. Here's what should make you freeze. Right before I started recording this, a Bloomberg headline hit the wires. It read, "United States accepts Iran's uranium enrichment demands, peace agreement incoming." That sounds like gold should be dropping, right? Silver should be pulling back. And if you saw that headline and felt relieved, or if you read it thinking you missed your chance, you need to keep watching. Because when I tracked that story back to its actual source, what I discovered tells you everything about who's manipulating the market right now and why the next 2 weeks could completely reprice everything you think you understand about precious metals. Stay with me. This runs under 20 minutes, and it might be the most crucial 20 minutes you spend this week. Let me be straight about why this moment is unique. I've been analyzing precious metals and the macro drivers behind them for years. I've monitored tariff cycles, tracked military buildups, dissected central bank purchasing patterns, and I've read more Supreme Court trade cases than any reasonable person should. In all that time, I've never witnessed this specific combination stacking up in the same 72-hour window. A constitutional breakdown over legal authority to conduct trade policy, a military timetable targeting a nation controlling 20% of global oil supply, and a coordinated media narrative sourced from Iranian state outlets, timed to drop on a weekend when markets are closed and metals are trading at elevated levels. This isn't a normal news cycle. It's a stress test on the entire framework investors use to assess risk. The Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that Trump's tariffs imposed under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act were illegal. 6 justices, including 2 Trump personally appointed, examined the sweeping tariff program that's reshaped global trade for over a year and declared it had no legal basis. You'd expect that ruling to end the tariff discussion, but that's not what happened. Hours after the ruling, Trump held a press conference. He called the decision deeply disappointing, and that same evening, he signed an executive order imposing a fresh 10% global tariff under completely different legal authority. Then Saturday morning, less than 24 hours after the ruling, he posted on social media raising it to 15%. In under 24 hours, the administration absorbed the most significant trade court defeat in American history and responded by deploying every remaining legal mechanism at full capacity the next morning. Here's what most analysts are completely missing about Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974. This law has never been used, not once, by any president in the 52 years since it was written. And it has a built-in sunset, 150 days. At the end of that period, Congress must vote to extend it. If Congress doesn't act, the tariffs automatically expire. Now there are rolling legal battles, a 5-month expiration clock, an unresolved $175 billion refund liability, and an executive branch that's demonstrated it will deploy every remaining legal tool at maximum speed the moment any authority gets challenged. That's not resolution, that's amplified uncertainty. And amplified uncertainty is the most reliable fuel for gold that I know. The Dow to gold ratio is sitting at a level last seen in 1973. That year, the collapse of the Bretton Woods system created exactly this kind of structural uncertainty. Between 1973 and 1980, gold went from $180 to $850. Now, let's discuss the second story. President Trump gave Iran a deadline, 10 to 15 days to reach a nuclear agreement or face consequences. When a reporter asked what that meant, he pointed directly to American strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities last June. The military picture backs this up. 2 carrier strike groups are currently in the region. The USS Gerald R. Ford, the world's largest aircraft carrier, entered the Mediterranean and is heading toward the Gulf. And then on a weekend when markets are closed, with gold sitting above $500, Bloomberg runs a headline about a peace deal. The sole source for that story is semi-official Iranian state media. And the timing, a weekend drop, should make you ask, who benefits from that headline hitting markets at that exact moment? Let me give you my honest assessment of why I think a deal is structurally unlikely. Iran's ballistic missile program is a red line for Tehran, not a bargaining chip, a survival mechanism. On the other side, Israel has made its position crystal clear. Iranian ballistic missiles can reach Tel Aviv in under 12 minutes. For Israel, any agreement leaving those missiles intact isn't a peace deal. And the gap between those two positions isn't a negotiating gap. It's an existential gap. Both sides are correct from their own survival logic. And that's exactly the kind of gap that doesn't get bridged in 2 to 3 weeks. These aren't separate stories. They're two independent pressure systems compressing against the same asset class simultaneously. The tariff story creates structural uncertainty. The Iran story creates acute event risk. And both are pushing the same direction for gold and silver at the same time. Let me outline the 3 scenarios I'm working with right now. Scenario 1, a deal gets made. In this scenario, the acute geopolitical fear premium in gold compresses. I'd expect a pullback, not a crash, in the 3 to 5% range. But even in the deal scenario, you still have tariff chaos. You still have the $175 billion refund liability. The deal scenario removes one leg of the bullish case temporarily. It doesn't remove the foundation. Scenario 2, talks collapse. Trump orders strikes. In this scenario, gold moves vertically. I'm talking 5,300 to 5,500 within days, possibly higher. Scenario 3, no deal, no strike. The deadline passes quietly. Both sides keep talking. This is the scenario I lean toward most strongly. Trump has shown a consistent pattern. He sets aggressive deadlines, then extends or reframes the timeline when the deadline passes. If I'm right about scenario 3, no resolution means the uncertainty premium stays permanently embedded, a slow, relentless grind higher that's very hard to time. Now, I want to discuss silver specifically. Buried in the new tariff order is an exemption for critical minerals. Silver is on the U.S. government's critical minerals list. That means silver imports aren't subject to the 15% blanket tariff. Every other major industrial input competing with silver for manufacturing budget just became 15% more expensive overnight. Steel more expensive, aluminum more expensive, copper more expensive, silver not more expensive, silver exempt. The gold-silver ratio is compressing. A few weeks ago, the ratio stood at approximately 65. Today, it's at roughly 60, 5 points of compression in a matter of weeks. Goldman Sachs has a gold target of 5,400 by end of 2026. If the ratio compresses to 45 over the same period, that implies silver above $120. If it compresses to 35, we're talking above 150. The physical silver market is stressed. The tariff regime now exempts it while taxing everything around it. The ratio is compressing. That's why I think silver has more upside from here than gold on a percentage basis. Let me tell you where I personally stand. Short term, I expect volatility in both directions. The Iran deadline creates a binary pressure point. My own read on the most likely outcome is scenario 3, the muddle through. The macro thesis hasn't shifted. Everything this week reinforced it. 36 trillion in national debt, 2 trillion added each year, a military posture in the Gulf that's the largest since actual combat operations last summer. If you hold physical gold and silver, this week is validation, not a reason to reconsider. If you're thinking about entering, understand that waiting for a clean, obvious bottom in an environment like this is how you end up watching the move happen without you. When you hold physical silver, metal in your possession, you hold something that can't be repriced by a margin call, can't be written off as a legal liability. It's outside the system of instruments that this week's events directly affect. The Bloomberg headline at the top of this video wasn't an accident. It landed on a weekend with gold above 5,100, designed to soften the safe haven bid and create a dip. The sticking point hasn't changed. Iran's missiles can't be negotiated away without threatening their sovereignty. Israel's security can't accommodate those missiles remaining operational. A written proposal from Iran isn't a deal. What you can strike down with a Supreme Court ruling is a tariff statute. What you can't strike down is $36 trillion in debt. Gold can't be ruled illegal by a 6-3 decision. Physical metal in your possession has no counterparty risk, no expiration date, and no congressional vote required. The system is under stress in ways this week made impossible to ignore. And the assets that perform best when systems are under stress are the same ones they've always been. This is Monday, February 23rd, 2026. Gold is at $5,151. Silver is at 86.87. The Supreme Court ruling is 72 hours old. The Iran deadline is still running. The Gerald R. Ford is still moving toward the Gulf. Watch 3 things this week. First, does the Iran deadline pass without a deal or strike? Second, what happens to Section 122 in the courts? Third, watch the gold-silver ratio daily. If this breakdown of the 72-hour sequence helped you understand what's actually at stake, hit the like button, and subscribe so when the next headlines break, you're already watching, not catching up. Drop a comment telling me which scenario you think plays out. Deal, strikes, or the muddle through, I think is most likely. I read everyone. This is the Asian guy. Stay sharp.